Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you with me for the first time, my name is Melissa Reed and I am an artist from Pennsylvania. So I've got in front of me today a few items. I've got my Liquitex matte gel medium. I have a gessoed 8x10 cradled wooden board there. And I have some used tea bags. I've been hoarding these for a while with no idea what to do with them, and apparently today was the day. I actually went up into my studio with a half of an idea in my head, but when I got up there and saw the tea bags, that all kind of flew the coop and decided to proceed with these instead. So really no idea at all what I'm going to do, except the fact that I am going to glue some of these tea bags with my Liquitex matte medium down onto this board to get started. There are going to be links to all of these items in the description, as well as a list of everything that I've used in this video, just as an FYI. Now you may have noticed that I had a canister with a red label on it of the matte medium in the beginning, but I ended up using my liquid there. That literally was only because I couldn't get the lid off of the gel one, so I decided to go ahead with the liquid one, but they both work pretty much the same. And all I'm doing is laying down a nice layer of that medium with my brush, putting the tea bags down, and then covering over them with another layer of the medium. And I do this with all of my collage simply to make sure that there's a very good amount of it on there, because I don't want any of these pieces coming up once the work is finished. Now I will go ahead and put a spray coating on at the end. I end up using the Krylon triple thick crystal clear glaze. I had to look that up because for some reason I can never remember the name of it. I'll use that at the very end once everything is good and dry, just to get a nice shine on it and a nice protective layer. But as I go through the process of collaging the different layers down, I will make sure that each one is getting a hefty amount of the medium on there, just to make sure that we don't have any edges sticking up. And you can see there that once I put everything down, I use an old gift card to smooth everything over. I'm just tearing little pieces enough to fill it in. What I am going for here is not regular. I want a non-regularity in this. I want as much kind of fly by the seat of my pants as I can possibly get, and I think we've got that going on there. I don't want nice neat columns or rows, just everything to look kind of interesting. Okay, so here I've pulled out my 8x10 jelly plate, and you might have seen me flash that page there, which was rows of random numbers. Now, I printed that backwards, and not for the reason you might be thinking. When I go ahead and put this down, now, incidentally, I printed this on my inkjet printer. I have a video on how to do that. It does not work with all of them. It does work with mine. I am sorry if it doesn't work with yours. A lot of people got really bent out of shape about that, but at any rate, try it out. If it works, it works. If not, better luck next time, I guess. But I printed them backwards so that when I pick them up, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, I'm going to pull this up and you'll see that they're darker on that side and lighter on the back. So I don't want a very dark print of this, which is why I did it that way. So when I go ahead and lay these down, it's going to be a little more muted. I could have achieved that in a couple different ways after it was printed, but I figured if I know going in that that's what I'm going to want, then I'm going to just go ahead and do it that way from the get-go and not have to worry about altering it later. So again, I'm laying down more layers here of these rows of numbers, and I do not want regularity. So you saw me tear that sheet. I want uneven broken edges. I want some of the numbers to be cut off. And again, I'm just using more of that matte gel medium to lay everything down and make sure I've got a really good amount on there so that it sticks. And I'm going to just keep repeating that process until I have... I'm not covering the whole entire thing because it doesn't actually need to be. And while I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing to finish this piece, I do know that I tend to always put the heavier, darker colors down at the bottom left-hand corner. So it wasn't so important to me to have them down there as it was where the areas that I know are going to be lighter, because that's most likely going to be covered up anyway, which it is, because in the next step you'll see what I do there to cover that. But yeah, I'm getting those numbers down there, and while they are definitely dark enough that you can see them, they are not like jet black sticking out. Now, to get that print from my inkjet printer, all I did was I printed out the sheet of numbers and immediately laid it down on my jelly plate, sprayed it with some water, let it sit just for a few minutes, and lifted it up. The ink from the printer was left on the gel plate, and I picked it up with a layer of the matte gel medium, thus giving me the print. So once I have that all dry, I decided I wanted to go in with a little bit of texture paste because I haven't used this in a while on any of my pieces, and I really like the way that it looks. So I have my offset spatula there, and you can use whatever you want. You can use a paintbrush. I find that I don't like to use a paintbrush because it does leave brush marks. This is essentially just like a plaster that can be used on canvas and paper. You wouldn't want to use regular plaster because it is not formulated for that type of thing, and there is a greater chance that it would get damaged and chip or flake off or crack, something like that, which you wouldn't want to happen. But this is designed specifically for art purposes, and you won't have that problem. The one thing I will say about that is you do want to let it dry adequately. I typically do this at the end of the day and let it dry overnight. Here I'm just wiping off the edges, any excess, with a paper towel, and I tried to go over it with a damp finger there just to try to bevel the edges so I wouldn't have to end up sanding it, but I did end up having to hit it with some sandpaper anyway because there were sharp edges. So after I did that, I just wiped it down really well with a damp paper towel to get any dust off of it. Okay, so this is the next morning and everything is dry. I went ahead and spritzed it with some water because I want to use some of these Golden brand fluid acrylics. I have Titan Buff, I have Burnt Sienna, and I have black there. I like those three colors together a lot. I use that color combination quite a bit. You can see how they move around and blend really beautifully together, and just with the water that I put down there, it gives them that nice softness. It gives them a nice base to work with so that they do all of their own blending. I don't really have to go in and blend anything. I just touched up a couple of spots that I saw that were blank and I thought needed color, added a little more water on, and just kept tilting the board until everything was as I wanted it. And you can see there, or at least I think you can see, I can see it up close, but where I put the texture paste on there, where the colors mixed, you can really see that, and those dark colors went down and got in all of the little crevices and just created this really neat visual and actual texture, which I just thought looked really cool. This is something that I use in my art sometimes, not all the time. I don't like to overuse it, but I've not used it in a while. And actually this piece at this point was starting to grow into kind of an ode to a piece that I had just sold. I think I put it up here a few weeks ago that I had won an award on a piece in a show recently, and I just got notified that the piece had sold, and it was a piece that I used texture paste on and also had a bird in it. So I'm not recreating the same piece, obviously, because that is kind of counterintuitive to being an artist, but I am kind of honoring that piece by doing some similar themes and techniques in it. So I did decide that I wanted to put a bird or two or three in there. I didn't really decide how many until after this step, but what I wanted was to use one of these old dictionary pages. And I put some Indian yellow acrylic ink down, and that is a little container that I mixed up with Payne's gray acrylic ink and water so that it still has that gray to it, but it's not quite as saturated and not quite as opaque, and I can get a little more layering in there. So that's what I did with that, and I just kept going in and adding more, and spraying some water on it to get it to blend a little bit. I ended up also using a little bit of the golden fluid acrylic burnt sienna on here as well, because while I liked the way the Indian yellow and the Payne's gray looked, they're gonna not blend as much with the background because neither of those colors are actually in the background. So I added just a little touch of the burnt sienna in there, so that it carries over some of the background colors into this. And you'll see what I'm going to do with this in just a minute. I just wanted it to make sure that it was going to be harmonious, I guess, visually. So I wanted to have just a little bit of that color in there. And I'm just using my hairdryer real quick here to quick dry these because I was on a roll and I have a tendency of not really wanting to go back to something if I stop. So I thought I'm going to just speed dry these and keep going and hopefully be able to finish this in a timely manner. Okay, so now they're dry, and I'm getting out one of my handmade templates that I made a while back. I've used this in a couple of other pieces. I actually used not this one that I'm tracing right now, but the one that's underneath my right hand that you can't see in the piece that I just sold. I'll go ahead and I'll put links to the video where I made that up at the end so you can take a look at it if you would like. But that's just a piece of acetate. I found a whole box of them at a thrift shop near my house for like next to nothing. And I bought them not really knowing what I was ever going to do with them, and I use them all the time. So yes, I made stencils out of these particular ones, and I am just taping these together so that I don't have to draw and cut that bird shape out twice. I'm just cutting them both out at the same time there, just to expedite the process. Okay, so now I have two birds that are fairly identical. Same size, same shape, slightly different colors, which is what I was going for there. And I have one there that I did earlier that's just on the plain paper, which now I'm just rearranging them and trying to decide how I like to see them on the page. So that's roughly what I end up with there. And I'm using some more of the matte medium to go ahead and get those glued down, again using a coat on top and bottom to make sure that they are going to stick. And I already really like the way that the birds look with the numbers in the background, and you can still see the shape of some of those tea bags that I put down. I just really like how it's coming together with the colors and everything. However, that bird that's down in the lower left-hand corner is obviously much lighter and does not fit in with anything. So what I decided to do was take a little bit of the Payne's Gray and put it over top of him just to mute down that brightness a little bit. And that worked out really well. So while that was even still wet, I decided to just go ahead and get that glued down. You'll see there that the foot ripped off. No big deal though, because I can just very carefully put that back on with my finger and get it glued into place as well. Okay, now I've let that completely dry and I am moving in with my charcoal pencil because while I love the way those birds look, you can't really see them because they are similar in color and tone to the background and similar in pattern too because they do have text on them. So I wanted to use my charcoal pencil just to outline them a little bit. This is a technique that I often do in reverse painting where you paint around something, but I'm doing it here just to make them a little more prominent, and then you'll see that I am taking my finger and just smoothing along the edge once I get it down to smudge everything and to create a little bit of shadow. While I'm finishing up this last bird here, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has subscribed in the last several weeks. There have been a lot of you. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, could you just do me a favor and give me a thumbs up? It helps out my channel a lot. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, just go ahead and click that button and click the bell notification, and it will let you know when I put out a new video, which is every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, just in case you don't want to miss any. Okay, so once I got all of the charcoal done there, I decided I wanted to do just a little bit of line work, and I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm not doing a ton. I'm basically just putting lines to kind of make it look like the birds are mounted up on something and not just standing in midair there. Again, not going for anything realistic here, just wanted to do a little bit of something to fill in some of the background room. So I'm doing double lines there. And what that's doing also is helping out compositionally a little bit to add a little balance and just kind of really tie the whole thing in together. Now you'll notice I'm using a piece of tissue paper there to rest my hand on. That's because I did not put a fixative or anything over top of the charcoal, and if I had not done that, I would just be making a mess dragging that all over the place. And that's what she looks like all finished. I'm pretty happy with this one. It's fun. I love the colors, and it honors the piece that I no longer have because it went to be in its new home this week. But thank you all for joining me on this journey. I appreciate all of you, and I can't wait to make another video for you again next week. I hope you all have a great day.